She came back, but never blinked. In the village of Igbokwe, where the red earth cracked beneath dry season suns and the wind carried the dust of old stories, people said grief was a second burial. The first lowered the body into the ground. The second lowered the living into silence. Kelechi Okoru had already endured the first burial. They had wrapped Amara in white cloth and laid her beneath the ancient baobab at the edge of the compound, the one elders claimed was older than the first drum ever carved in the land. Women wailed until their throats broke. Men beat their chests softly in restrained sorrow. The earth swallowed her while the sky watched without blinking. But Kelechi did not cry. He stood beside the grave with eyes that looked carved from charcoal, dry and unyielding. When they finished the final rites, when the priest poured palm wine into the soil and whispered prayers to the ancestors, when neighbors placed hands on his shoulders, he did not tremble. "She is resting," he said. They thought grief had stunned him numb. They did not know grief had only begun its deeper work. For 3 days after the burial, Kelechi refused to leave their hut. The door remained barred, the cooking fire died, the mortar and pestle lay untouched. The mat where Amara once braided her hair collected dust. At dusk on the first night, when the village quieted and goats settled into soft breathing, he lay alone on the woven mat they had shared for 11 years. The moon climbed and the door creaked open. He did not hear footsteps. He did not hear cloth rustle. He only felt the weight of the mat shift. A warmth pressed gently against his back. His breath caught. "Amara," he whispered. The scent reached him first, shea butter and smoked hibiscus, the oil she always used after bathing in the river. The warmth felt real, solid, living. He turned slowly. There she lay, beside him. Her face rested on her folded hands. Her braided hair framed her cheeks exactly as it had before fever hollowed them. Her lips curved faintly, and her eyes were open. They stared at him, unblinking. Kelechi's heart pounded so violently he feared it would wake the village. "You returned," he breathed. She did not answer. She only watched him. He told himself spirits often needed time before speaking. Elders said sometimes the dead visited gently at first. Sometimes they needed permission to cross fully back into the world of breath. He reached out. Her skin felt warm. Warm. Not cold like river stones. Not hollow like dream air. Warm. He pulled her into his chest and held her the way he had held her when thunder frightened her during storm seasons. She did not resist. She did not respond. She did not blink. Morning came. He woke alone. The mat was empty, but it was warm. The second night, she came earlier. The moon had barely risen when the door eased open without wind. Again the mat dipped. Again the warmth. Again those eyes wide and dark and fixed upon him. "Why do you not speak?" he asked softly. Silence. He told her stories instead. He told her how the market woman cried when she heard of Amara's passing, how the neighbor's child left mangoes at the grave, how he had not eaten because food had no taste without her laughter near the pot. Her lips parted slightly, as if listening, but she never blinked. On the third night, something changed. When she lay beside him, he noticed her chest. It did not rise, it did not fall. Her warmth remained, her body solid, but no breath moved her. His fingers trembled as he placed his palm beneath her nose. Nothing. Still she stared. Her eyes reflected moonlight without moisture. His stomach twisted. "Amara," he whispered, "blink for me." She did not. The silence grew heavy, thick like the humid air before a storm. A thought crept into his mind, slow and unwelcome. They buried her last week. He remembered the weight of the soil hitting the coffin lid. He remembered the sound. The sound. His heart began to pound differently now, not with longing, but with dread. "Who are you?" he asked. For the first time, her lips moved, but the voice that came was wrong. It was soft, too soft, like dry leaves rubbing together. I am where you kept me. His breath stopped. Her head tilted slightly, a movement that felt unnatural, delayed as if controlled by invisible strings. You would not let me go, the voice whispered, so I did not. Cold spread across his spine. Her eyes widened further, still no blink. The warmth beside him began to feel less like comfort and more like something stolen. He tried to move away. Her hand closed around his wrist. The grip was strong, stronger than Amara had ever been. You called me, the voice said. Every night. You said I was resting. You said I would return. His throat tightened. I buried you. Her smile stretched too slowly. You buried a body. The hut darkened, though the moon remained bright. The air thickened with a scent, not shea butter now, but damp earth, freshly turned soil. He heard something beneath the floor, a faint scratching. From below, her face drifted closer to his. Her eyes filled his vision. You would not accept the silence, she whispered, so something answered. The scratching grew louder, under the mat, under the earth, under him. Kelechi screamed and tore free, scrambling toward the door. He flung it open and stumbled into the night, chest heaving. Behind him, inside the hut, he heard a soft, almost playful voice call, I am still your wife. The door slammed shut on its own, and from within, something laughed. Not loudly, not wildly, just once, a low sound that did not belong to breath. And as Kelechi fell to his knees in the dust, he realized something that made his blood run colder than river water in Harmattan season. He had slept beside it for 3 nights, and it had never blinked. The village did not believe him. When Kelechi burst into the square before dawn, dust clinging to his legs and terror hollowing his eyes, the elders were already gathered beneath the old baobab. Smoke from early cooking fires curled into a pale sky, and roosters had just begun their boasting. She is in the hut, Kelechi rasped. Amara is in the hut. Murmurs rippled through the circle. Old Mama Ifrenaya pressed a trembling hand to her chest. Grief walks like a shadow, she said softly. It sometimes speaks in the voice of the dead. I buried her, Kelechi insisted. I felt her in my arms. She lay beside me for 3 nights. Dreams can be warm, said Obina the blacksmith. Dreams can feel like flesh. Kelechi's voice cracked. Dreams do not hold your wrist until your bones ache. That silenced them. Elder Chidubem, whose beard had turned white as river foam, narrowed his eyes. Did she speak? Yes. What did she say? Kelechi swallowed. She said I would not let her go, so something answered. A hush fell. Even the goats seemed to quiet. Chidubem stood slowly. We will go. They approached the hut in a tight group. The morning sun had risen fully now, casting long shadows across the compound. The door stood slightly ajar. Kelechi's heart hammered. Call her, the elder whispered. His mouth went dry. Amara. Silence. The hut remained still. Chidubem gestured to Obina, who stepped forward and pushed the door open fully. Inside, the mat lay exactly as Kelechi had left it. No imprint, no warmth, no scent of damp soil, only dust dancing in slanted sunlight. Obina turned slowly. You see? Kelechi staggered inside, dropping to his knees. He pressed his palm against the mat. Cold, completely cold. He clawed at the woven reeds, searching for any trace, any sign. His fingers brushed something beneath. He froze. The earth under the mat felt loose, fresh. Chidubem noticed. Move aside. The men pulled back the mat and began digging. The soil was soft, far softer than it should have been in the dry season. After only a few inches, Obina's shovel struck wood. A coffin. The air drained from Kelechi's lungs. That is not possible, Mama Ifunaya whispered from the doorway. She was buried at the baobab. They dug faster. The coffin lay shallow, far too shallow.
Kelechi's vision blurred. I did not move her. I swear on my father's bones. Chidubem's face tightened. Open it. Obina pried the lid. The coffin creaked, and when it opened, a collective gasp filled the hut. It was empty. Nobody. Only white burial cloth, folded neatly, as though whoever had left had done so carefully. Kelechi's breath came in broken pieces. She was here, he whispered. She was sleeping beside me. No, Chidubem said quietly. Something was. A cold understanding passed through the elders like a silent wind. Mama Ifunaya began muttering an old prayer under her breath. There are things, Chidubem said, that feed on sorrow, things that wear the shape of what we cannot release. Kelechi felt the words stab into him. You think I invited it? The elder's gaze did not soften. Did you accept her death? Kelechi said nothing, because he had not. He had told himself she was resting, that she would rise, that the earth would give her back. He had whispered it into the darkness every night. Come back, come back, come back. And something had listened. They reburied the empty coffin at the baobab and sealed the grave with heavy stones. The priest burned incense of bitter root and crushed kola nut around Kelechi's hut. Protective markings were drawn above the doorway in white chalk. Do not sleep inside tonight, Chidubem ordered. I must, Kelechi said. If it returns. It will, Mama Ifunaya interrupted. A chill slid through him. It will return, she repeated, because it believes it belongs to you now. That night, the elders hid outside the hut with charms and blades blessed in sacred water. Kelechi lay alone inside, heart pounding loud enough to shake the walls. The moon rose. The air shifted. The door creaked open. The mat dipped. Warmth pressed against his back. He did not turn. He did not breathe. A familiar scent drifted near his ear, but now beneath it lingered something rotten, faint but unmistakable. You brought watchers, the soft voice whispered. Outside, the wind died. It cannot see me, it continued, because I am not what they fear. Her hand slid across his chest. Her touch was too deliberate, too knowing. You made a space for me, it murmured. In your longing, in your denial, I fit perfectly. Kelechi forced himself to turn. Her face hovered inches from his. The same braids, the same scar near her chin from childhood. But the eyes, they reflected nothing. Not moonlight, not him, only depthless black. Where is my wife? He demanded. The smile widened. I am what remains when love refuses truth. Outside, a sudden scream erupted. One of the elders. The hot walls trembled. Kelechi's head snapped toward the door. When he looked back, her face had changed. Just slightly. The skin too tight, the smile too wide, and for the first time, it blinked. Slowly, but not like a human blink. The eyelids moved sideways, like a lizard's. His blood turned to ice. You see? It whispered. Then the warmth vanished. The mat lifted. The door slammed open. Kelechi bolted outside. Obina lay on the ground, clutching his chest, eyes wide with horror. What did you see? Chidubem demanded. Obina's lips trembled. It walked past me, he whispered, but it had no shadow. The air grew heavy. Mama Ifunaya began to cry softly. Chidubem looked at Kelechi with a face carved from dread. It is no wandering spirit. It is not your wife's ghost. Then what is it? Kelechi asked. The elder's voice dropped low. It is something that wears memory. And somewhere beyond the baobab, beneath the earth that had once held Amara's body, something shifted. as if whatever had been buried there had only just begun to wake. By midday, the village no longer whispered. It spoke in open fear. Children were called indoors. Market stores closed early. Even the rhythms that usually sounded at sunset remained silent, as if rhythm itself had decided not to tempt the night. Obina would not rise from his mat. His eyes stayed fixed on the doorway of his hut, wide and untrusting. When asked what he saw, he repeated only one sentence. It had her face, but it moved wrong. Kelechi sat beneath the baobab tree, staring at the grave they had resealed with heavy stones. The earth looked undisturbed, calm, ordinary, too ordinary. Chidubem joined him, slowly. There are old stories, the elder began, voice low. Stories we do not tell often, not because they are forgotten, but because they are dangerous. Kelechi did not move his gaze from the grave. Tell it. Chidubem exhaled. There are beings that cannot create life. They do not understand breath. They do not understand love. But they study it. They study us. A faint wind stirred the leaves above.
When grief tears a hole in a heart, the elder continued, that hole becomes a doorway. Some things wait for such doorways. Kelechi's jaw tightened. You speak as if this is my fault. I speak as one who has seen men bargain with silence. The word struck, because Kelechi remembered. He remembered sitting beside Amara's body before burial, pressing his forehead to hers. He remembered whispering, "You cannot leave me." He remembered promising anything. Anything. He had not meant it as a bargain, but something may have heard it as one. A sudden sound interrupted his thoughts. A low thud. From beneath the grave. Both men froze. Another thud. Soft, rhythmic, like a fist against wood. Kelechi stood abruptly. You hear it? Chidubem's face had gone pale. The earth shifted slightly, not dramatically, but enough. The soil above the grave seemed to rise, barely, then settle, like a chest taking breath. The grave was breathing. Kelechi stumbled back. No, he whispered. The thudding stopped. Silence fell again, thick and suffocating. Villagers had begun gathering at a distance, eyes wide, murmuring prayers. Mama Ifunaya approached, clutching a small pouch of crushed herbs. It grows stronger, she said. What grows stronger? Kelechi demanded. Not the thing, your attachment. He recoiled as if struck. That is cruel. It is truth. Her voice held no malice. Grief is natural. Denial is human. But obsession feeds what should starve. A crack split the soil. A thin line, jagged, running across the grave's surface. The crowd gasped. Chidubem shouted for stones. Men rushed forward, piling more wheat atop the burial site. But the crack did not close. Instead, from within the earth, something exhaled. A long, hollow sound, like wind through a deep tunnel. Kelechi's pulse roared in his ears. Then he heard it. Soft, familiar. Amara. His knees nearly gave way. The voice came from beneath the ground, faint, muffled. Amara, it is dark. His heart shattered. Amara, I breathed. Mama Ifunaya grabbed his arm hard enough to bruise. Do not answer. It is her. It is not. The voice below whimpered softly. They buried me wrong. I cannot breathe. The soil trembled again. Villagers began to cry openly now. Kelechi tore free from Mama Ifunaya's grip and fell to his knees beside the grave. Amara, I am here, he shouted. Chidubem lunged for him. Stop! But it was too late. The crack widened. A hand burst through the soil. Not decayed, not skeletal. Whole, smooth, the same bracelet Amara had worn since girlhood circled its wrist. Kelechi sobbed. She lives! The hand clawed upward, fingers digging into earth. Another hand followed. The villagers screamed and stumbled backward.
The figure pulled itself halfway out of the grave. Amara's face emerged from the soil. Death clung to her braids. Her lips trembled. "Kelechi," she whispered weakly, "why did you leave me?" He reached for her. Mama Ifonaya screamed, "Look at the eyes!" He froze, because though her face was perfect, her eyes were wrong. They were too deep, too wide, too black. And beneath the dirt, her skin did not glisten with sweat. It glistened with something thicker, something dark. The figure smiled, slowly. "You see," it said, but now the voice layered over itself, doubled, like two throats speaking at once. "Love calls louder than death." The ground split wider. More of its body crawled free, but its movements were jerking, unnatural. Bones bending too far, neck tilting too sharply. The villagers fled in panic. Only Kelechi remained frozen. "You promised," the creature said softly. "You said anything." His memory stabbed him. Anything. He had said it. He had meant it in desperation. The creature's fingers dug into the earth and pushed itself fully out of the grave. It stood. Its shadow stretched long across the ground. But the shadow did not match its shape. The shadow had horns. "You invited me," it whispered. Kelechi stumbled backward. No! It would not let her rest. It took a step toward him. Each movement produced a faint cracking sound, like dry wood snapping. Grief is sweet. Denial is sweeter. The air grew colder. Clouds slid across the sun. The baobab's leaves shivered violently, though no wind blew. Chidubem raised a blessed blade and stepped forward, returned to the soil. The creature's head snapped toward him, too fast. It smiled wider. "You think soil binds me?" it asked. Then its gaze returned to Kelechi. "You opened the door." The creature lifted its hand. The bracelet slid down its wrist, melting, not falling, melting into its skin. The illusion began to flicker. Amara's face blurred, shifted. For a moment, Kelechi saw something beneath, something older, something with no mouth, only a vertical slit where a mouth should be. He screamed. The creature lunged, but before it reached him, Mama Ifonaya hurled the pouch of crushed herbs into its face. A violent hiss erupted. Smoke poured from its skin. The creature shrieked, a sound that split the sky. Its form flickered violently between Amara's face and the thing beneath. "I will not starve again," it roared. Then it dissolved, not into dust, not into air, but into shadow. The shadow seeped into the crack in the grave and vanished. The earth stilled. Silence returned, but the crack remained, a dark line across the soil, like a wound that refused to close. Kelechi collapsed to his knees. Mama Ifonaya stood over him, breathing hard. "It is no longer just weighing memory," she said. "It has tasted it." And far beneath the ground, something shifted again. Not trapped, not defeated, only waiting. That night, no one slept. The crack across Amara's grave remained, like a scar the earth refused to heal. The elders surrounded it with salt, ash, and sacred markings drawn in trembling white chalk. Drums were beaten softly through the dark hours, not in celebration, but in warning. Kelechi sat alone outside his hut, back against the mud wall, staring into the darkness where the creature had vanished. "It has tasted it." Mama Ifunaya's words would not leave him. He had seen its face flicker, seen the thing beneath the skin it wore. It had not been Amara, not even a twisted version of her spirit. It was something else, something that needed him. The wind carried a faint whisper through the compound. "Kelechi." His chest tightened. He shut his eyes. It was only memory, only grief. But when he opened them again, he saw something that made his blood run cold. There were footprints in the dust before him, fresh, bare, leading from the direction of the grave, stopping inches from where he sat, and then turning toward his hut. The door creaked open slowly, without touch, without wind. A faint glow shimmered inside. Kelechi rose on trembling legs. The elders had forbidden him from entering alone, but something pulled him forward. Not longing, not hope, something darker. Responsibility. If he had opened the door, he must close it. He stepped inside. The air felt wrong, too thick. The shadows in the corners of the hut seemed deeper than night should allow. The mat lay undisturbed, but the warmth returned. Not beside him this time, behind him. "You are braver tonight," the voice whispered. He did not turn. "You are not her." Silence. Then a soft laugh. "No." The word carried weight. The warmth pressed against his back again, but this time he felt the texture of its skin. Not smooth, not human. Something beneath the surface shifted, as though another shape struggled to stay hidden. "Why do you wear her?" he demanded. "Because you remember her perfectly." A thin hand slid over his shoulder. Memory is the strongest skin. He clenched his fists. "What are you?" The hut darkened further. The walls seemed to stretch, the ceiling rising higher than it should. "I am hunger," it answered simply. Its reflection appeared in the clay water pot across the room, but the reflection did not show Amara. It showed a tall, elongated shape, with limbs too long, head tilted at a broken angle. "You called for her with such desperation. Your voice tore the veil." His heart pounded. "I only wanted her back." "Yes." The word lingered. "And I only wanted to exist." Its hand tightened around his shoulder. "You gave me shape." His breath stuttered. "You cannot keep it," he whispered. The creature stepped around him. Its form flickered between Amara's familiar body and the shadow beneath. Its eyes were no longer fully black. They were filling with something dark red. "You think I wish to leave?" it asked. "I can feel your sorrow. I can drink it. It strengthens me." Outside, a sudden scream shattered the silence. A child's scream. Kelechi's heart leapt into his throat. The creature smiled. Grief multiplies. One loss births another. He lunged for the door, but invisible force slammed it shut. The creature's body stretched taller. Amara's skin peeled away like cloth slipping from bone. Beneath it stood something impossibly thin. Its torso narrow and ribbed. Its arms long enough to brush the ground. Its head elongated with no nose, only slits. And where its mouth should have been, a vertical opening split open slowly. "I will not starve again," it repeated.
The scream outside cut off abruptly. Kelechi roared and grabbed the blessed blade Chidubem had left hidden near the doorway. He swung. The blade sliced through its arm. Black liquid sprayed across the wall, sizzling like hot oil. The creature shrieked, not in pain, in rage. "You are bound to me," it thundered. The hot walls cracked. The floor split slightly beneath their feet. "You promised anything." Its arm regenerated before his eyes, bone stretching, flesh knitting. "You promised without knowing what listened." It lunged. Kelechi dodged, slashing again, this time across his chest. The wound smoked. The creature staggered. Outside, elders began chanting. Sacred words layered over one another like woven cloth. The creature recoiled as the chant grew louder. "You cannot cut hunger," it roared. "But you can starve it," Mama Ifnaya's voice shouted from outside. Kelechi understood then. It fed on denial, on refusal, on his clinging. He lowered the blade slowly. The creature paused, confused. He felt tears rise for the first time since the burial. Hot, real. "She is gone," he whispered. The creature's body twitched. "She is dead." The hut trembled violently. "You lie," it screamed. "I buried her.
The tears fell freely now. I loved her, but she is gone. The creature shrank slightly, its limbs shortening, its form flickering. You called me, it hissed. I release her, Kelechi said firmly. The chanting outside intensified. The creature's body began to collapse inward, its elongated frame twisting unnaturally. No, it shrieked. Without your grief, I am nothing. Kelechi stepped forward, blade steady. She deserves rest. The creature lunged one final time, mouth splitting wider than possible, but Kelechi drove the blessed blade straight through its center. A sound erupted, not a scream, but a vacuum, like air being sucked violently from a cavern. The creature imploded, its body folding into itself, shrinking rapidly, until only a small shadow remained on the floor. The shadow writhed, then seeped downward into the crack in the earth beneath the hut. Silence. The hut returned to its normal size. The air lightened. Kelechi collapsed, sobbing openly now. Outside, the chanting stopped. Chidubem entered slowly. It is not fully destroyed, the elder said quietly, but it is weakened. Kelechi looked at the crack forming along the hut floor. It matched the one at the grave, a thin, dark line, a doorway not fully closed.
It will seek another sorrow, Mama Ifunaya whispered from the entrance. Kelechi wiped his tears. Then we must warn them. The elder's eyes were grave. We will. Outside, dawn was beginning to break. But beneath the earth, the crack paused once, softly, like a heartbeat. And far below, in a place where light never reached, the hunger did not die. It waited for the next voice desperate enough to promise anything. The child who had screamed survived. He remembered only cold wind brushing his face and a shadow stretching across his wall, nothing more. But the village remembered everything. The crack at Amara's grave never closed, nor did the thin line beneath Kelechi's hut. They remained permanent scars etched into earth and clay. Warnings. Kelechi changed. He no longer avoided the baobab. He visited it daily, not to beg, not to bargain, but to speak truth. She rests, he would say softly, and I remain. His tears no longer summoned, they honored. The elders taught the children a new proverb after that season. When grief becomes refusal, it becomes a door. Life slowly returned to rhythm. Drums played again, markets reopened, laughter cautiously followed sorrow. But sometimes, when harmattan wind swept low and dust blurred the horizon, villagers claimed they saw something thin moving at the edge of sight. Not near the grave, not near the hut, but wandering, searching for the sound of someone whispering into darkness, "Come back." And on certain nights, if one listened too long to silence, one might hear a faint reply carried on the wind. I am where you keep me. Kelechi never married again. He never barred his door in fear, but he never slept without a candle burning beside him. Not for light, but as reminder. Love must release, or something else will answer. And somewhere beneath forgotten soil, in the deep places where longing echoes loudest, the hunger still waits.